Hey, welcome back to the Lead Counsel Podcast. Your host, Tom Tona. Before we jump into today's topic, I just want to take a minute to thank the sponsors of the podcast. This episode is sponsored by Tona Law. They're not just another law firm. They're defining what it means to fight for their clients. We get a lot of attorney referrals from across the country. We pay fee participation in all jurisdictions where it's permitted. We focus on integrity, innovation, and relentless advocacy. Tona Law is proving that the business of law can scale without losing its heart. If you want to see how a modern firm is built for impact and happy client referrals, check out tonalaw.com. Mention again the Lead Counsel Podcast, and I'm happy to get on the phone with you. Seth Price from Price Benowitz. Seth is just the most down-to-earth guy you'll ever meet. And this is why I urge people, go to masterminds, go to rooms that are much bigger than yours, than where you're at. Go with the people like Seth and others that are 8-figure lawyers. It's very humbling, very humbling. So the actual statistic is that of the companies that make it to 1 million, and I don't have that stat, but only 1 in 3 will make it to 10 million. And to hear multiple 8 figures, 2 multiple 8 figures, and there's one common denominator, and that's you. So like, I'm blown away. And the other thing is that Jules, you've met Craig, now you're meeting Seth. You will never meet more down-to-earth, humble guys than like, I've now known Seth a couple of years now. We've been seeing each other at different masterminds. And I just can't tell you how humbling it is to be in your groups and have you facilitating and to learn from you. And like, man, you can drill down on issues. You clearly know my pain points as I'm making the journey to 8 figures, right?
Well, that's part of what's sort of good about, and as you see, like, depends on how your firm is set up. My law firm, because I have all these different practice groups, the good news is if you're ADHD like me, it's like there's always something on fire. So there's always something to put your attention to. And when that gets boring, you go somewhere else. So to a certain extent, been there, done that. And I think one of the things I just focus on is trying to learn from those things in the past. One of the things I love about Fisher's group, Mastermind group, is even though some of the people aren't as advanced, when I think about those issues, the fundamentals that get you there, fundamentals are fundamentals. And if you do it at a smaller scale and then you supersize it, great. Yes, just like kids, bigger kids, bigger issues. But there are certain fundamentals about how you build and how you grow and how you deal with people that I think generally comport across the boards. And so that's why it's really neat when you see people at different stages. There's things you forgot about on the way, right? How do you make that first hire, that first administrative hire? We heard a lot about that, right? Now I take that as a given. But I also do remember way back when I started not wanting to spend money on non-revenue producing things. I was way late to the game getting sort of an administrative person hired too cheaply. Got very lucky in my journey to have somebody who came on board and built and grew with me. But that person, that non-lawyer ops people, forget about marketing. Julia, it's the most important person to the firm. I get that.
Right. She is. Yeah,
so I mean, the golden trio, right? As you build and grow is you need to make the phones ring so that you got to have your marketing and some strategy, whatever it may be, in place. Secondly, when the phones ring, somebody's got to answer it. And that's not talked about nearly enough. I mean, there are people out there talking about it, but it is the least sexy. And, you do all the marketing in the world, but if you're not converting or converting really poorly. And then finally, the ops. I'm taking the lawyering out of this, right? So the way I've built my firm, I divided and conquered from day one with a partner where he was in charge of lawyering and I was in charge of everything else. And so that ops piece where you extricate yourself, and I think a lot of myself, but I was not the greatest with ops, meaning there are people that are more attention to detail, less ADHD, who can actually get things to move along. And that if you do want to build and scale, it is that giving up. And that's what I see most people having the hardest time with is how much do you still have your hand in stuff? And how much harm are you doing? And again, present company included, when you continue to try to dabble rather than build that great pyramid and let your direct reports do their job.
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head on so many levels, right? There's some fear there. And it could be fear of a price tag that's unfounded, right? Like I know for me, there were certain blocks. I was like, oh my God. And you have this way of saying things like, you might give me a 30-second snippet. And because you're from New York, you're not like, oh, Tom, let me coddle you, right? You're like, what? I'm not going to say the F word because then we have to bleep it or mark it mature. But you see me at one mastermind, you go, dude, what are you doing? You're trying to scale your personal injury division and you're still on certain software. So you see me again at somebody else's marketing thing that we were at down in Georgia. And you're like, hey man, I asked you before, what software are you using? The third time you saw me, you're like, if I see you next time, you still give me the same answer. We're not talking. What the F are you doing? Right. So, but you got me off my butt.
I know that you just recently came back from a mastermind surrounded by multiple big players. And it's a smaller mastermind compared to what you usually go to, but it's a small group of massive, massive players in your space. So what do you think was like one of your biggest takeaways from this week?
All right, look, I'll go through a bunch of different takeaways that I thought were excellent. Probably the biggest takeaway is this. A lot of people talk to me about rooms they should be in, right? I get a lot of inquiries online and stuff. And just so you understand the makeup of this room, I was one of the smaller fish in the room at our level in terms of growth and revenue and scaling. There were several 8-figure players, multiple 8-figure players in this room, several, multiple 7-figure players. So one of the biggest takeaways is I'm in my best habitat when I'm learning, and I'm at my best learning when I'm one of the smallest people in the room. And I don't mean size-wise. I mean, when I'm the smaller fish in the pond that I'm swimming in, I'm learning from the greats. I am standing on the shoulders of greats. And so for me, it's really important that you're in a room with people doing where you want to go, doing things that are reflective of where you want to go. They're already doing it. So the 8-figure players, I have no doubt, will be 9-figure players in the future, right? As their firms grow and they build. And so to me, that's really important. So that's a big takeaway. You know what I mean? You shouldn't be insecure. You should go in with a mindset of, I'm here to learn and contribute, because we're doing stuff different from other firms, bigger firms, where bigger firms can learn from us, right? And they're not competitors. They're not even in our market, right? They may be doing the same thing across the country. So that's one of the biggest takeaways. I think another big takeaway for me is you have to remain a source of disruption and innovation, or you go extinct in the marketplace. One of the other big takeaways is making yourself dispensable in your business, right? The highest value that you can bring to the business of a law firm is by making the law firm completely not reliant on you as the owner. And I've been in the room with people who are straight up business people at this point, and they should never and would never and never want to touch a file. I am somewhere very close to that point as I hire more and I hire more skilled people. And then you have people that are still firmly entrenched in the technician role, right? But I think if you want to build it like a business, that's what makes it the most valuable. And you need to make yourself completely dispensable. You should not be the hero in your law firm business. What else did I take away from it? Excellent conversation on KPIs and data, which comes up in a lot of my masterminds. And that's a big thing, because if you're running your business like a business, then it runs on data, not intuition and not emotion. So the importance of data is a recurring theme on the rooms that I'm in, because there's only one way to scale. And that's by studying the data, seeing what works and seeing what doesn't work, eliminating what doesn't work or improving it, and amplifying what is working. One of the biggest takeaways was it's not about money. It's not about what you can buy. It's about how you spend your time and the people you spend it with. That's your biggest asset, is time. And it's the one thing that you cannot buy. Quick break to thank the sponsors of the podcast. This episode is supported by Tona Law, a modern law firm built on integrity and innovation. Learn how they're changing the game at tonalaw.com. Attorney referrals accepted from across the country. You'll see what it's like when you send us a case. You'll have some happy clients. A very special guest, Valerie Peterson. One of the things that is fascinating about the process that I went through with Atticus, stepping away from the group stuff, staying on in the private coaching, and then implementing EOS at the different levels I was doing, is the iterations of understanding that I had when you guys would say revenue follows capacity. The qualifier being what you said, which is the right team. Yes. Right. So when you guys say it should be one of your goals is make yourself replaceable, yes. Right? There's a caveat to that. That I learned the hard way is your price tag has to be commensurate with what you, as the leader of the organization, would be able to do that at. So you could say revenue follows capacity. You need to hire But if you're going to replace yourself as the law firm leader, you also have to be realistic. There's a price tag you have to wrap your head around for that service. You can't just come back and replace yourself. You need to hire a high-level recruiter that specializes in talent acquisition at that level, right? So it's all an iteration. I didn't understand it when Steve first said it.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. And again, so many firms that we're working with, we just need to get them some time back. We see the law firm owner who's doing a lot of administrative tasks. And when we help them think through, okay, what's the hourly rate that you would bill out at? But you're doing these administrative tasks. How much revenue are you losing by doing all of the things in a firm that you could hire someone to do at a much lower cost that frees you up to do that billable time, or better yet, marketing, building referral sources. So yes, we eventually want them to get to the point that that business can run without them, which may mean replacing them. But it's that foundation that has to come first, and making sure that the law firm owner is focused on the highest and best use of their time. And that takes a really good team.
Props to you guys, because there's so much that could be complex that you guys have really simplified to a core foundational set of tools. You've never varied beyond. These are the fundamentals that will carry you along. Now it's just iterations.
Yeah. And it's not always the sexiest way to describe it when we say you have to stick to the foundation,
master the basics,
build from that foundation, use your planner. It's a focusing tool. But you're right. It is iteration that comes from first having that foundation, because that's what's going to help you grow in the way that you need to grow. But it all starts with that foundation and having a discipline to go back to it. Just like you realized, I've got to step aside and get some time to meditate and recharge. Yes. That's why it's so important for us with our attorneys. You've got to get time away from the office. You've got to commit that you're not going to work evenings. You're not going to work weekends. You've got to have that time to recharge. And that might be meditation. That might be being out in nature.
I could tell you the ripple effect that probably more people need to look at. And it's this. What you guys do is not just about me as the owner of a law firm. It's about all of my team. It's about my family. It's about my kids. It's the quality of life that I can deliver that's in being present. Yes. It's super far reaching. I mean, you guys have touched hundreds of thousands of lives exponentially as the ripple effect just goes out into the universe. Really, it's that far reaching. You guys have caused that paradigm shift among lawyers that are some of the most successful people I know, right? That I could rattle off the top of my head, where they have a great practice, highly profitable, and a great life, a great family life. It's a work in progress, but.
Right. And we really do encourage members that come to us in the beginning to recognize the distinction between greatness and achievement. Achievement is running someone else's race and comparing yourself to somebody else and believing that that is the pinnacle of your career or your business, as opposed to focusing on greatness. What does it mean for you to be great? What does it mean for you to have a great practice? What does it mean for you to have a great life? Let's work on that and stop measuring yourself by someone else's scoring that has nothing to do with you. Nothing at all. Right. So it really is that greatness versus achievement that we try to get people to anchor to from day one.
The single number one tool for success, accelerator, all of it is being in the right room. And you guys were the originators of creating those rooms.
Right. You can really accelerate your learning when you're in the room with others, like-minded law firm owners who are playing for greatness like you are, understanding it might mean something different, for someone else than it does for you, but you're all on that path to greatness. So we're trying new ways to make sure that we are giving attorneys different options. What speaks to you, what's going to work for you, and what you're trying to play for. You might want to be with other trial attorneys. It may work better for you to be in a group based on firm size, or you may work better one-on-one with a coach. I will tell you that our most successful lawyers, meaning most successful in terms of the income that they want to have and the life that they want to have, use both. They're in a group.
I did that.
Yeah, they're in a group and they have their one-on-one coach as well. That's like the best of both worlds.
Somebody said to me this morning, if you were talking to somebody 20 years behind you, what would you recommend? Mastermind. right? You find your tribe, you find your people at whatever level you at. I tend to love to pick rooms where there's people much bigger than me and much smaller than me, because I can learn from everybody. There's different things that people see at different points.
Sure.
But it's being in the room that is so powerful. But the one-on-one coaching, and I never understood this, and maybe that's why it is such a big secret. I went to the DYM and I was in the Black Swan, and the pain was palpable. I mean, I inflicted so much pain on myself. And I was talking to Steve about it, and I was like, oh, wait, I'm not going to get the answers I need, right? Group think, mastermind coaching is different from the one-on-one. So like I try to explain that to people now. Maybe we put this podcast out with that specific designation in mind, that masterminds are for concept and thought and group think.
Yes.
If you want specific tailored advice to what you're going through or whatever else, you kind of need one-on-one coaching, right? Because you can't stop a group to just focus on my black swan.
Yeah. Yes, right? Absolutely.
Sounds silly, but I didn't understand the distinction at the time.
Yeah. And, one of the other kind of secrets, to coaching as well is discovering things for yourself, because you can either make a point, meaning you're telling somebody something, or you can make a difference, which is helping them discover it for themselves.
And the process to discovering it.
Absolutely. And once someone can discover it for themselves, it's theirs forever. It's theirs, right, as opposed to just being told something. And if I could tell your audience anything, it is beware of those companies who say, we're just going to tell you how to do it. It's going to be turnkey and off you go. They might make a point, but it's not going to make a difference in your life or a difference in your practice. But if you go through the exercise of discovering it, it becomes yours. It becomes the fabric of how you operate. It's just like going back to the foundations that we talked about. You discovered for yourself how important they were. And then you were able to make it your own and adjust, but always coming back to those foundations. If things started going south, you knew, wait a second, what am I doing that's different? I need to go back to some foundational work and taking a day.
Right. And you brought up a great point. There's all these people like, this is the answer, right? This is the cookie cutter answer. And so what's fascinating about the coaches that I've worked with is you guys have a lot of coach consultants. You got guys and ladies that both know the answer and they know the process and they know which to deploy when.
Yes.
Right. And that was super valuable for me. You're paying good money, right? Coaching's not cheap. Masterminds are not cheap. You're doing this 1-year program. And I would listen to them say, that's not going to work. This is never going to work. Meanwhile, I'm like, I'm doing it. I did it after the first time they talked about it. Trust me, it works. It does work. Yeah. Man, lawyers have always historically been these miserably staunch, fixed-minded people. And, that's one of the reasons why I love focus groups, because here we are, we're obsessed about a case for the last 10 years, and it's finally coming up. And the stuff we thought we should be focusing on, the focus group's like, no. This is what's important. And they're the ones that decide the fate of the case.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I was on with a publicly held company, a CEO and their right-hand person. And they said, if you were talking to yourself from 20 years ago, one piece of advice you would give. I said, if I am allowed to give you 3 pieces of advice, it would be this. 1, don't drink. I stopped drinking 15 years ago. My daughter was born. Best thing I ever did. 2, you need a mastermind. You need a tribe of people, right? Atticus still, I go to the conference every year, the summit, because they're still my tribe. Even if I'm not day in and day out with those people, I walk in, I'm good. I'm home again. And then 3 is meditate. Meditate. I wish I had done it 20 years ago, because even the stuff we're talking about now, if you let it resonate, it's super important. Right? Be in the room with people that care. Everything else works itself out. So, and again, all of this was stuff Atticus was talking to me about 12 years ago when I first joined. So thank you for listening to this episode of Lead Counsel Podcast. Your host, Tom Tona. Go anywhere podcasts are distributed. Follow us. Leave us a 10-star review. Share some episodes with your friends. And thanks for listening. I appreciate it. Thank you. This episode is sponsored by Tona Law. They're not just another law firm. They're defining what it means to fight for their clients. We get a lot of attorney referrals from across the country. We pay fee participation in all jurisdictions where it's permitted. We focus on integrity, innovation, and relentless advocacy. Tona Law is proving that the business of the law can scale without losing its heart. If you want to see how a modern firm is built for impact and happy client referrals, check out tonalaw.com. Mention again the Lead Counsel Podcast, and I'm happy to get on the phone with you.